You know, Michael, you kind of look like a vampire.
Ouch.
Oh, no.
He's tall and pasty.
That's true.
You know, and he kind of stares a lot. And you make me feel really uncomfortable, but I'm kind of intrigued. You know?
Michael's not a good vampire name, though.
Yeah.
Kaylin, I can't read your mind, and that's why I'm so infatuated with you.
Do you smell me right now?
If you say what I think you're going to say.
I don't. This is not. What line should I say?
No.
Okay.
Call me a spider monkey.
Money, sex, money, cats.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Perfect Movie Podcast, the podcast where we answer the question, is this a perfect movie? I'm Michael.
Kaylin.
And today we have our third time's
a charm.
Kayla Sorley.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
No, we're definitely going to do the exploding grunt sound. Hooray!
Hooray! Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice sound. It's a sound of death, but it is also a sound of life and fun.
But always
I feel
a pleasure.
like that's me as a person. Death and life.
Always a pleasure to have you on, and yeah, let's get vamping.
Well, so here's the deal: is I finally got to take the reins here, and I got to pick the movie. So I have chosen Catherine Hardwicke's 2008 cinematic masterpiece, Twilight.
It is a masterpiece.
It's a piece of...
A masterpiece of shit. No, I'm just kidding.
This is my super Broly time.
Okay, all right.
I'm
okay.
fully prepared to just be ripped apart. And
Can you move your mic just a little that way, so when you look at him, you're looking at it? You know what I'm saying?
Let me turn.
If this is the problem with this situation, we may need to find a new ergonomic... We just can't look at Kaylin. Don't take it personally, but I can't look at you too hard.
I just,
I thought you told me to look at him.
Well, you just need to speak, and this one is even more so than these ones, directional. So if you're speaking that way while it's facing you, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna come off like really
just put
echoey.
Blinders on and do this.
This is gonna be great.
Speak to
everybody. Look directly at the wall. We need to get an elaborate system of mirrors.
It's a great idea.
Thank you.
We used to be in sort of a semicircle, and maybe I can make the semicircle work again. Do you? But
here's the problem. We're in a semicircle, but I'm it's the opposite way.
Yeah.
We're all facing outside of the semicircle.
You are the outwardest most part of the semicircle, and we're at the base.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Honestly, off the record, you could just turn this facing the other way, have the chair on the other side, the monitor facing towards you or towards the wall.
You mean totally flip it around and I'm
and then you could have. I mean, there's a way where you're not boxed. I feel like we could do this, but so we can all see each other at least. You know. There's a way we could do this.
The AC's off. Time's a ticking.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
all right. Pretty soon.
Yeah, we gotta hurry up.
All right, so usually we discuss a little bit of our background with the movie. So I'll send it over to Kaylin first, and we'll have a Kayla sandwich because I think she'll probably have the most to say.
A Kayla sandwich. All right.
Remember last podcast when she was asking how long it would make to cook her to be medium rare or whatever?
I know, we keep talking about
You guys talk about it.
Talking about cannibalism. No, you said that. You're
like,
oh, yeah.
You said something about cooking yourself.
All right, Kaylin, talk about Twilight.
What to say about Twilight? I've seen this movie a few times. I kind of forgot how bad it is. It's really bad. But in a kind of a funny way, it's kind of hilarious. And
what was your experience? Because I think this is important for the Twilight. What was your experience when it came out as did you see it as a teen? Because Twilight was a phenomenon we all lived through in our teens.
I did. I think I saw the first one. I was in theaters. I want to say I saw it in theaters. I think it was the Mall of America theater. You know, the theater on the 4th floor, the AMC. I think I went with a group of friends, and we were all really angsty teenagers, and we went to watch this terrible movie.
Was there a lady involved?
Probably.
I mean, there kind of has to be. I feel like almost.
Yeah, you can't go to this by yourself, you know. But
False.
Well, it's because like everybody went to see Edward or to see Robert Pattinson.
I'm not saying boys can't go watch Twilight. I'm saying knowing Kayla, he wouldn't show up to Twilight
without a group of friends. I'm sure it was like a couple guys, couple girls, and we all went.
And a little tension between everyone, you know, teens.
Yeah,
that's how this goes.
And all the girls like freaking out over Edward, you know, and Taylor Lautner. So. And that made us like feel really bad on the inside, you know. And
we knew that. We knew that, and we soaked in having the power just for that night. Yes.
But yeah, like back to what I was saying, like this movie is pretty bad, but it's like a fun time kind of, and I crack up every time I see Bella's face in this movie. The main character Bella, she constantly looks like she's masturbating.
What?
Like that's how I describe it. Her face, whenever she's like,
look like when.
No, all right. It's like the you know that face.
No. She does look like she's making that sound. That sound is like her attitude. It's like. Ugh.
It's like she's constantly like, I don't know, like touching herself or her face. Come on.
She's supposed to be like in pain, like
emotionally in pain.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't really get that. I just thought she was like really awkward and kind of weird.
I just want to show the difference between a boy brain and a girl brain right there.
The first thing I go to
is like, oh, I know what this is. And I'm like, wow, she's in deep emotional turmoil.
I know. She looks like
and
she's
Caitlin's like,
jerking
wow,
it.
Open season.
Hey.
Okay. Caitlin, we're going to shut you down. Kayla. Kayla, how do you what's your history of Twilight?
What's my history of Twilight? That's a hard question. Twilight, I would say, actually was pretty formative during my teenage years. Like, I read all of the books prior to the movies coming out. It was my first kind of step up from like more childish books. So I was always into fantasy, like Harry Potter.
I'm picturing like baby Kayla holding the book Corduroy, and then she sees Twilight over in the corner, and she goes, "Ooh,
goo goo gaga." I could read.
So
by
would
I
you
was
say
4.
it's like there's like a phase like that you go through with books? So it's like Twilight, and then this next step after this is like 50 Shades of Grey.
I can't personally comment on that, but I will say, like, I think that there is a pipeline. So I don't know if you're familiar with ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a Sarah J. Maas series, and that's like the adult version of Twilight.
Okay.
Kind of.
I feel like I've heard of that. I mean, but yeah, I feel like this is like the introduction to like the really raunchy stuff. You know what I mean?
I would disagree with that, because actually when we talk about themes, I'll remind me that I'm saying this. When we talk about themes, I'll say it's anti-raunchy.
Okay.
And we'll talk about why.
Oh, it's very like pro-celibacy.
Yes.
But it is also, what I wrote down is like, this is one of those trashy novels with the shirtless cowboys, but it's like the biggest tween movie of all time. You know, the like trashy novels that have like shirtless dudes that like divorced moms get wine drunk and read, or maybe even married moms.
You're talking about like a Harlequin romance,
I guess.
Basically.
I don't really know what they would be called, but it reminds me of that, but it's a tween-centered thing. And I imagine those things, despite having the shirtless boys, are all about like kind of like the eroticism of no, or maybe I shouldn't, or a love that shouldn't happen, or whatever, you know? Mm-hmm. That type of deal.
I was talking about this actually with a girlfriend of mine about how it's kind of weird to look back at these books, and I still read books like this. I mean, I think they're super gripping. But when I was, let's say 6th or 7th grade, I probably picked this up. I was like super into it in 7th and 8th grade, and then it like formed my teenage years a lot. But, you know, it's like, oh, Bella's 17, about to turn 18. Like, they're adults. Like, this is an adult relationship. And now being 28 and watching the movie, it's like, oh, they're babies. Yeah. They're so small. So it's kind of interesting to like be able to compare those points in time, I think. But yeah, Twilight was huge for me. I went to movie premieres. I went to book releases, like Barnes & Noble midnight release parties. I used to have a shirt that said, I like men who sparkle.
Remember when kids read books? Remember that?
Kids, they're coming back to it. You're not on TikTok. Book I've been real.
I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm disconnected. What is the new thing? Like I feel like after Twilight, we had Hunger Games. That was like the next big book series. Before Twilight, there's like Harry Potter and also like Harry Potter knockoffs.
The Maze Runner series and like the Percy Jackson.
Like we had a lot of like YA novels, and then they get turned into movies often later on. City of Light. I don't know if anybody read that one. That was a pretty good one. It's never mind.
I would say right now, like Caravel's really popular. There's one that's on Netflix. I can't think of like it's Shadow and Bone. Shadow and you know what I'm talking about?
I think I recognize that name
because it's like Six of Crows is the duality series to it. Like it's the same. Not the same characters, but the same universe. Maybe same characters. I haven't read them personally. But I met a girl at a pool who was like my age and reading them. She's like, these are really good. And I think that's something that can be said about this type of literature is it speaks to like our inner teen and we love to go back to them. I mean, I have all 4 Twilight books at my house and I will not lie. Like there are times I'm like, wow, it would be really nice just to like read this just for the nostalgia aspect of it.
Yeah.
It also like the music really formed like my taste in music. Like one of the biggest songs in the series, because they danced to it at prom, is Flightless Bird, American Mouth.
Okay.
And I think Iron and Wine, I want to say. No, that's their other. Never mind. But that was like my first intro into like folk music, which is now my favorite genre. Like I listened to folk and indie, and that's pretty much what the Twilight soundtrack was, with a bunch of like pop punk, which I already was listening to. So Paramore, Muse, things like that.
Real angsty stuff.
And it was during an angsty time. Like I consider myself really lucky to have like lived through that period of time with the Hunger Games and Twilight, because we all kind of bonded over that as like teen girls. And that was like a cultural phenomenon, and it's kind of fun to see it come back to life because it is really camp and people are like, wow, this is so memey.
Well, I mean, that's what it is now. It's just a giant meme. It's like you still see Twilight memes all over social media. And it's actually funny. Yesterday we were doing a little shopping. We were at a mall in St. Paul, and we go into a rag stock, and I just see like Edward shirts everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yo, people are like, I mean, this is like still a thing. Like, you know, it's kind of got that Napoleon Dynamite kind of thing where it's like the vote for Pedro stuff. Like, I don't know. It's so burned into our memories and our like, in our culture. You know, it's interesting.
Is. And I kind of associate this with like my first real sense of like longing. I'm really embarrassed to admit that I would like lay on the couch and pretend to be dead, like hoping that Edward would come in my house and save me. But that happened. Like I used to have like these really like fantastical like daydreaming, and this was kind of the first time it flitted towards men in a weird way. So
it's a coming of age story.
It is.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm not gonna comment what I want to say, but I'm looking at you, and you know what I'm trying to say.
I feel like something's coming. So yeah.
Nope.
What else is coming, guys? It's
Edward.
my opinion. Everybody, be quiet. I have stuff to say.
Shut it down.
I didn't I was very aware of Twilight. Never read it as a teen. You know, was classic teen boy, annoyed by all this Team Edward, Team Jacob. I'm like, these fuckers. I don't like them. I never watched it up until like literally yesterday. I've never watched a Twilight movie.
It's crazy to me.
It's just like it's possible I did once and forgot about it, but I don't think so. Maybe I might have seen one of the sequels like out of nowhere, but I don't think I ever watched. Like I actually did get into I read some of the Hunger Games and watched like 2 or 3 of the movies.
I'm sure if you ever did watch it, it was like really ironic.
Yeah,
you know that you did watch it. Like it was just you're kind of there, you know.
So, but you.
Yeah.
We were talking about the meme material, and one of my new segments is I'm reading Letterboxd reviews.
Yes.
And let me tell you, the Twilight crowd is crazy. So these are a little wordy. So just I'm just letting you know off start. One Well, we'll start with the a short one. This one's just like this movie. The main girl is always falling down, hurting herself.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to be a damsel in distress.
Which just means tumble down these fucking stairs right now.
Wait, hold on. So there was a scene where she slipped on some ice. Was that like impromptu, or did she actually? Was that part of the script? It kind of looked like she actually fell on set. You know what I mean? You know, when she fell in front of her dad as she was getting into the car, it looked like that was a for real thing.
I think it may have been for real. I don't have confirmation, but I was just reading that it was like super cold the entire time they were filming, so ice would have been present. Like, apparently it was in the 30 to 40 degree Fahrenheit range when they were doing the prom scene. So they're all in like parkas, and then they'd take the parka off and pretend to be like semi-warm on an April night, but they were like shivering their butts off. So it could have been real for sure.
That's goofy.
Here's a good one. This movie rules. Every Edward line is so much better when you pretend he's just a weird lanky guy at your high school that makes everybody nervous and does Dragon Ball Z charge-up moves when he thinks no one is watching. Every Bella line has the subtext of "you better let me suck that dick, shiny boy." The DP showed up one day and said, "If I have to use a tripod, I will fucking kill myself." The credits roll on the most inexplicable possible Radiohead needle drop. It's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yikes. So it's so campy. Like, that's the thing, is people like, yes, when it was released, and for me it's different, right? Because it has that like twinge of nostalgia to it. It's like, oh yes, this kind of like is my inner teen. Like, I'm like, oh, I like watching this because I can remember how it felt to like be in those theaters and read these books. But like for everyone else, they're like, this is just funny because it's bad. Like, and even I don't know if you know, but the cast like is very outwardly like, they hate this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they hate it. And that's so funny to me.
There's a couple like Robert Pattinson lines that really read as like ironically read. Like when he's being like really dramatic, I'm like, buddy, that is hilarious. I think this will be my last one. My mom forced me to watch this and then quoted the entire thing and then started crying because she didn't have someone like Edward. And I told her that the relationship was actually really abusive. And she said, "Sweetie, I know. Me and your dad got divorced because of this movie. And now she's running around the house looking for something to eat. Please save me."
Oh, no.
We feel you, Mom.
Is that my daughter in 10 years? Is that a time traveler? Oh, no.
Messages from the future. All right, so shall we move along to our first segment?
Yeah.
The performance test.
It was the performance of a lifetime.
What if I would have said no?
We would have talked about something else, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
Which would have brought a
The
real
podcast would just be over.
real like
I'm done.
emergency break to the whole situation for no reason.
Okay, performance test. Here we go.
So this is where we talk about performances, scenes, moments. I'm going to let somebody else start. Who wants to start? Kayla, I know you got something to say. I feel like you got something to say. Kaylin doesn't want to shit on this yet, so maybe...
I'm going to wait. Go ahead,
So
Kayla.
should I start with like actual like good performances that I think happen?
Sure.
Okay.
This movie has those, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that the supporting cast does a really great job. So you have Anna Kendrick as Jessica Stanley, and she's really good at being bitchy. Like, that's exactly how she reads in the books. I think it was really well cast. And also, that was kind of her launch into stardom. So that was kind of cool, because I know a lot of people go back and they're like, oh, it's the girl from Pitch Perfect. Like,
that's what
no, when I saw Pitch Perfect, I was like, that's Jessica Stanley. Oh my God. Like, so it's just kind of interesting. I also think that Nikki Reed and Ashley Greene. Nikki Reed plays Rosalie. She does a really nice job of that character. Rosalie, I think, is really cold and really hard to portray. And I also have the context of like the rest of the saga, right? So it's kind of difficult. But I think that she does a really nice job of setting the tone for the character in this movie. And then as we move along into the other 4 movies, she kind of has like growth and development, and not in like a relatable way, and that's kind of cool.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Rosalie is the blonde sister that's like, when when Bella's like, I already ate, she like drops the salad and she's like, great.
Yeah, okay.
Here comes the human. Bella, we're making Italiano for you.
Oh. Bella, this is Esme, my mother for all intents and purposes.
Buongiorno. Molto bene.
Giving us an excuse to use the kitchen for the first time.
I hope you're hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. She already ate.
Perfect. Yeah, it's just because I know that you guys don't eat, so of course.
So, and then Ashley Greene plays Alice. And I think that she does a phenomenal job just being that bubbly, kind of bounces with every step. Like, oh, I can already tell we're going to be great friends. I think she does a really nice job. So
it's funny. I don't think this is a good movie, but I do agree with you that there's actually a lot of like funny, like interesting performances, and I kind of liked how the whole town was these weird little freaks. Like they were all just like strange. The Coen family's strange. Like I like the dad, the sheriff. He's really great. I like the fucking the rogue vampires we meet at the end, which I assume that doesn't the dread guy at least come back. I bet the sister comes back. Or
I think
he's
like
the
a
girlfriend.
Yes,
the girlfriend.
The dread guy is like a reoccurring kind of antagonist in the series, right?
no, he dies in New Moon.
Oh, spoilers!
Okay.
Jeez, I was gonna finish the saga.
I was really looking forward to that.
No. I think we need to touch base on this because when you were texting me, I was like, I don't think he gets what's going on in this baseball scene. And I don't want to jump ahead, but Victoria is the mate of James, and Laurent is just kind of with them, I think, for protection. So he has loyalty, but that's why Laurent goes to the Cullens and is like, James is going to hunt her down. Like he's kind of this like gray morality character of like, he's kind of bad, but he also doesn't 100% agree with what his clan's doing.
He's the Ahsoka of
of the vamps.
He walks the gray path.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Also a black person.
Shout out the two black people in this movie. Oh, I want to talk about the teenage black kid because he was hilarious. Like he was just
I'm so the one that tries to hit her, or almost hits her. Yeah.
He's just kind of an asshole to her in the beginning. Like when she pulls up, he's like, a nice car or a nice ride, and they're like, oh yeah, good one, man. Like and then later on, he's like in their friend group for whatever reason. He's just kind of there, and then he accidentally hits her with the car, and then her dad is like being an asshole to him and stuff. I just thought his character was kind of funny.
So I agree with you. My general like idea of this whole movie was like, this is an interesting movie that focused on the wrong people. Like all the side characters are really interesting. I would watch a movie about the Cullen family, like through time and like how that family works together, or just like a fucking Addams Family type movie, but it's the Cullen family. I would watch a movie about a sheriff investigating a vampire death as he like slowly unravels the clues. That plot line goes fucking nowhere. He's like, turns out the other town's investigating, I'm off the case. That's how that ends in this movie. I was watching this and I was like, fuck, I actually kind of like all these like weird side characters and this weird like freaky, like this town's kind of like Twin Peaksy, where like everyone's a little like just a little strange, a little off, and then it's like, oh Bella, oh Edward, and it's just the most like saccharine romance plot, and then that's actually 3/4 of the movie. So
I want to
and actually a lot of bad like weird action, which is has a little bit of charm in itself, but not like well done like fight scenes. Or the running, like when he takes her, anytime he takes her running up the hill or like running away, very funny scene.
I want to shout out an actress that I noticed was in this, Christian Serratos. I don't know if she looks familiar to you guys.
Oh, the friend.
Yeah.
Yep.
Michael, she looks familiar to you? No. So she's a recurring actor in the Walking Dead series.
Oh, really?
She plays Rosita.
Really?
Yeah.
I never put that together.
She was literally in like from season 4 all the way to like the end, I think.
Because she plays Angela, right?
No, she plays Rosita.
No. Angela and Twilight.
Oh, Angela and Twilight.
It is Angela.
There is an Angela in Walking Dead too.
Who is Anna Kendrick's like kind of dichotomy, I would say. Like they're the two friends of Bella, and Angela's kind of like this like has ulterior motives, like wants to be friends with Bella because she's cool. I think she does like Bella, but also is jealous of Bella. And Angela's just like, no one notices me. I want to go to prom, but I'm too scared to be asked.
Oh, high school was such a, that's such
What
a high school
time
thing.
to be alive. Am I right?
High school, it's the most important thing ever.
I looked over my yearbook as prep for this yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God. Oh no. We had sweatpants Wednesday. We just like all decided as a collective that we would all wear sweatpants every Wednesday.
That sounds like a really comfortable day to me.
It was. Did you guys do anything weird in your high school?
We wore uniforms, so we couldn't ever do anything fun like that. But
Yeah, we never had fun.
Okay.
we had Jesus Thursdays.
Nice job escaping a cult.
Okay, let's talk about our leads. Kristen Stewart. Woof. Oh my God. There's never been a more like unlikable lead. just miserable. And I don't understand why everyone else likes her. She becomes popular in school, but she's like, in reality, if that girl showed up to your high school in 2008, you'd be like, did you see the new weirdo freak that showed up? She's just all like, she's like, I wouldn't because I was a nice person, but I'm just saying like,
No, you absolutely would roast her.
no, but she's like not, she's like wearing hoodies and she's always looking at the ground and just being kind of like,
She's always biting her lip.
I was just gonna say.
biting her lip and being kind of just like terse and like unlikable.
Doing the Debbie Ryan
But she's
like
also-
hair thing, like
She's also like sarcastic a lot, but it's like the most like baseline sarcastic stuff you could say to somebody. Like, I don't really even know how to explain it. It's just kind of irritating because I hate sarcasm.
The one nice thing she ever says to anyone besides Edward is when she compliments the one girl in the dress, and that takes so much out of her she has to fucking leave. She's like, Jesus Christ, being like a normal human was so tiring for me. Gotta go read a book about vampires now. So it's just like, it's the combo of her, and then we meet Edward Cullen, Robert Pattinson, who's like school shooter meets like fucking
Justin
I
Bieber.
am triggered.
from Keanu Reeves at an interview with a vampire where he's like, what foul deed is this?
I've seen many strange things already. Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
I like watching you sleep. It's kind of fascinating to me.
Like, he's like just melodramatic and he's depressed and he's just like, ugh.
Yeah, because he's alone. Because Carlisle hasn't found him a buddy.
Okay, but you think you would be like socially like normal for a vampire that's been living for hundreds of years? You'd think you'd be able to hold a conversation with somebody.
He's been going to high school for 100 years and hasn't fucking figured it out, apparently.
No, they do know how to do it. It's just like it's kind of part of their defense to keep people away, because like imagine if they became friends with someone and they wanted to follow up. It's like, hey, how you doing? Oh, you still look 17. That's weird. That would give their secret away.
I would just move around a lot.
They do, but
They just enroll in a new high school and start as freshmen again.
they do.
Like, they really love
That's
high
what
school.
They do.
That's kind of predatorial though as well, where it's like they're already apex predators, but it's like we're also going to put ourselves around minors constantly.
Oh, so would you rather that they weren't vegetarian and they just bit everyone's
No,
neck
but I'm
off?
like, you can like not go to high school. You look like a 30-year-old
Daddy
anyways.
Cullen has a job. Why can't any of the other kids get jobs?
Just
because
say
they're high schoolers.
just say you're freaking 35 or you're 32 or something, and
They're
then
17. They look like babies.
I don't know. They don't though. They really don't. They look like 30-year-olds in high school. Right?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. I think like the tall guy with the black hair that's like always standing up on the Jeep whenever they're driving.
Emmett.
He looks like he's 35.
Okay, that's fair.
You know?
I'll give you that one. I will give you that one.
And it's just like,
This
so
movie- this is
it turns
ridiculous.
into,
here.
What did you say?
I said this movie is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
And like it's almost like they turn it, and then it turns into this big romance. Obviously, it's Twilight, and it's like so like saccharine and dramatic, and like, oh, I love you forever. You're so beautiful. I died when he was like, I've already told you I'm a monster. Just wait till you see this. And he goes up on the hill. He's like, watch, I sparkle. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is that gonna do? And it's like for me, I'm watching and I'm like, these people aren't in love. They just deserve each other. Like in the real version of this movie, nobody fucking likes them because they're not likable people. It's almost like they deserve each other more than they're like.
They would be like the weird couple in high school that like do the Eskimo kiss and stuff in front of everybody.
Like at lunch.
At lunch.
Like they're on the table and they're just like staring at each other's eyes. Like just make out at that point.
Yeah,
like it's
right.
more uncomfortable than
it's just like a lot of sexual tension.
Have y'all ever read the Zits comic strip? It's a comic strip about high schoolers. There's one recurring, like it's a character, but really it's a couple, but they're always holding each other and in an embrace, and they're never separated, and they like complete each other's sentences. That's what I imagine them being like. And they're all a little strange. They're just like emo goths in the corner just being like, I fucking love you and I hate the world. I love you and I hate the world.
Okay, as the resident single person on the podcast though, like I live in St. Paul. Come find me, Poppy.
If you can find your Edward, good for you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not hating on it. It's just funny.
No, I think if I did find an Edward as my friend, I would want you to intervene.
And to break you guys up every once in a while.
Listen, Linda.
The PDA's got to stop, guys. Come on.
I wanted to be Bella so badly. They sold her jacket. I can remember everything. Like the designer was BB Dakota, and it was like $89.99. And I almost bought it like multiple times.
You should have bought that.
I know
for sure.
I had a Twilight calendar. I had multiple shirts for the lore. I was all in, fellas. I was all in.
So, what segment are we on right now?
We're in the performance tests.
Do we have anything more to say about the performances?
I got one last thing. Picture this: you're alone and you're in your room. You're a young 17-year-old woman in your prime. Beautiful.
Take that back right now.
Okay.
That felt very predatory for me.
So, I'm just trying to describe Kristen Stewart in this movie. Okay. So, yeah, that was sus. Let me walk that back. Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. Just picture this. You're a young woman. You're alone in your bed. You're in your bedroom, right? Okay. So...
There's no way you can make this any better. I'm sorry.
Walk with me here. I'm gonna land this plane.
Okay, all right.
Okay, the boy that you've talked to, I forget at what point in the movie this happened, but all of a sudden the boy that you've had a little bit of relationships with comes and he hops through your window. Classic, like teen movie type, teen love. The boy sneaks in the window and you guys hang out and you talk a little bit and he goes, I like watching you sleep. How do you feel?
I'm immediatally uncomfortable.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm nervous. I've just been farting the entire time. Like that's
in your
where yeah.
Okay, you're not afraid that he just is
what
like
if you're a bedwetter?
Is it weird that I just think no healthy person says I like watching you sleep in the tone that he does?
Is that something like you would find hot? You know, it's like it depends if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of thing that is.
I just felt like at the point in their relationship, it should have been like, oh, what?
yeah, honestly.
I think that goes into a theme, though, because, like, Bella's never had a relationship. And this is all kind of about this, like, chaste... they talk about virtue. Virtue is, like, a recurring theme throughout the entire series, in the books and in the movie. So I think it's, like, she's so naive to what a relationship should be that she's like, she doesn't understand how to parse apart like the attention versus something that's healthy because she's never had anything before.
And she's never seen that either. Because, I mean, her parents are split up. Her mom is with a different guy.
True.
So she doesn't really know what love is to begin with, or because she hasn't had that reference. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
If that's true and intentional, which I don't know, very well may be, it's often the theme of like a vampire story. There's a lot of, themes of consent. Like there's like I know there's a lot of rape that happens in these books, or like there's a rape like backstory of one of the vampire sister has like a rape backstory.
Yeah. Trigger warning.
There is a roving band of rapists in this movie. Do you remember the scene between the dress shop and the bookstore?
Edward saves her, yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, ladies, want to have a good time?" In a very like 80s movie cliche like style of rapist. And that's just a general theme with like, you know, the vampires, they take you in the night. Like that's like a thematic thing for vampires. Mm-hmm. It's just interesting if the subtext is supposed to be she's doesn't understand relationships, how unfortunate it is that so many young people unironically saw this as a wonderful relationship. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's... we can talk about themes later, but I have an article from the University of Pittsburgh that literally pieced apart why this is anti-feminist literature.
Word. Let's move along. Cool. 2. It's an art bro. This is where we're going to discuss the filmmaking process, the sets, effects, lighting, all the around the edges stuff. Kayla, you have a big smile on your face. What's up?
What's this?
It's an art project.
Okay, I like it. Picasso. Yeah, that way.
It's so blue. They shot it through a blue lens. And when I bought a DVD during the original release, I got a piece of film used in a movie theater during the original release because there is a limited number of copies. So I do have a piece of the film, and it is indeed blue.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's like a relic now.
I know!
Yeah. That's pretty sick.
I could probably sell it for a lot on eBay.
You should. You got to make sure it's in good condition.
Oh, it's in pristine. Because I was like, this is going to make me money one day.
Yeah, it might. It just might, actually.
Yeah, this is a very, like, I feel like if you put your movie or story in, like, Oregon, they all end up gray. Like, this is the classic mode of, like, Mexico's orange. Yes. Like, the northwest of the United States is gray. This is a very gray movie. And it cracked me up that one day that's apparently sunny when it's just as gray as all the others to us, but Anna Kendrick's sitting out, and she's like, it's such a beautiful day outside. Oh, and the sun's out. And I'm looking around like, this is, like, still fucking gray. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, yellow tones don't exist in this movie at all.
Yeah, it's all blue. And that's why I actually think I made a comment when we were doing Mad Max about, like, it's mostly orange, which is the opposite of Twilight. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of that same concept of, like, we're going to create a visual experience to set the mood. Like,
and I think it does the job.
I agree.
I actually kind of like the atmosphere in this movie. Because I just kind of... There's another really good vampire movie that kind of has the same tone. It's called Let the Right One In.
Oh, yes.
And it's like set in Alaska, I believe, or like some town somewhere in, like, I don't know, Canada or something.
Yeah, I
don't
know.
It's really dark and it's really like gray and it's kind of disgusting. But it's got like this feeling of despair to it. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. I think it works really well for like the vampire genre. Just because it's all rooted in like Dracula's castle kind of thing where it's like really gothic and like, so I think it works well. But.
It's something like, as someone who describes myself as like kind of dark academia, like diet goth is what I was recently described as myself.
Diet
I'm like,
goth.
You know what? I fuck with that. I like that. It's really funny because TikTok, now that it's like September and it's, you know, fall, even though it's 94 degrees, people are making TikToks of like lighting their candles and like time to rewatch the entire, like the annual rewatch of the entire Twilight series. Like,
yeah,
that's very fall because it has that like moody temperature to it.
Sure.
Like, it's not scary per se, but it's got that like dark undertone of like, this is fantastical, there's good and evil, and there's romance too. It's cuffing season, boys, like, let's get moving. So it's like the perfect fall movie for so many of us because we're like, oh yes,
it's something you can cozy up to.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah, and that's what I can be appreciative of this. So
it's interesting, like, watching it, especially like so many years after it being a thing. I wonder how much of like the stuff that I enjoyed is ironic, like intentionally kind of campy, like the baseball scene. Like, I kind of enjoy it, but it's like fucking ridiculous. Like, it's very Looney Tunes. A lot of the effects are kind of Looney Tunes, like especially the running effect It's iTunes running effect. Like, it looks identical to it. And I just wonder, like, how much of that was intentional or just me, like, finding something to be interesting about, or just the way it's aged, you know? Because, like,
Yeah.
I feel like it was so serious. Like, everybody took it so seriously when it was out.
Yeah.
When it was originally out. And you can watch it again, and there's, like, a camp factor to it that I find kind of enjoyable to everything but the romance plot, basically.
Right. Well, and I think there's something to be said about, like, when it was made, right? Because it was released in 2008, so it was probably filmed 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
And you think about how far special effects have come even in just that amount of time. Like, I know during the baseball scene when they have the vagabond, like they're called nomads, nomad clan of vampires coming, they're actually on, like, the thing that's at airports, like the moving... What do you call that?
Oh, like the
conveyor belt.
Yeah, the conveyor belt.
So they're walking on one of those, which is why, like, they're moving faster, but also it looks weird because it looks like they're just walking, because they are. Like, that to me always sticks out as a sore thumb, but that's kind of like how all of the special effects go in this movie. It's just like, it's natural and it's unnatural, and part of me thinks that was slightly intentional because that's what vampires are. Like, they look like us, but they don't move like us. There's something a little bit off about this the entire time.
Yeah.
It's just like, especially like the baseball scene and a couple others, it's like, how could you have written this or filmed this straight
Where
face?
it's not goofy.
Where it's not a little goofy. Like,
Yeah,
it feels like, to me, it does actually feel like the movie is actually smart enough to, like, lean into it.
But, you know, it's funny because in that scene, what makes it even goofier is they're all wearing, like, the outfits.
And they have, like, 1900s, like, style. Like, those are, like, old style because they're old as shit. Those are, like, old style baseball uniforms.
And it was just like, I mean, I don't know. I think it would be more effective if they were just wearing regular clothes, and to make it not as goofy. Cause just like vampires dressing up as, like, baseball players, and then it's like it's like really clean. I don't know. It just kind of takes you out of the movie almost. It feels like something completely different. Like I'm watching a disaster movie or something. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's really interesting. I've never felt that, but listening to you say it, I have a theory that maybe that was intentional because so many people have gone as... Oh, I dropped my fidget ring. So many people have gone as the vampires during the baseball... Like, the baseball scene is iconic at this point. It's very campy. It's very... Like, that is, like, what people think about. And so people go for them as Halloween. If you just dressed up as a regular baseball player, you wouldn't be like, oh my God, she's cosplaying as Alice. You'd be like, that's a baseball player, right? Or like, this almost adds that we're slightly different than everything else so that we can be recognized in like a broader sense.
Yeah.
It's like Hot Topic Field of Dreams. It's fucking hilarious.
Hot Topic Field of Dreams. I'm using that. That's
Honestly,
my new username.
This whole
for
movie is
everything.
just like, you can sum it up as Hot Topic. I mean, that's literally
Hot
what it
Topic
is.
Twin Peaks.
That's like the era of just Hot Topic.
And like, I love it because it's not Spencer's. Like, there's a very distinct difference.
Yeah.
It's not Spencer's. It's Hot Topic.
Spencer's is like edgy for the sake of being edgy. Hot Topic is just Hot Topic. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
If this was the Spencer's movie, there'd been like a real kinky sex scene in the middle of it.
Yeah,
you know?
there would have been like some guy wearing a shirt with boobs on it or something.
There'd be someone running to the back of the store just to touch like their first vibrator and then and then run back out. Just like, my God.
Other than that, I don't know. Do we have any other notes for an art, bro?
I want to say this has the makings of a good story. I think just like, because I do like vampires related things. I think vampires can be very interesting when given the right type of story. I would have preferred this to be set in like Victorian era kind of thing, and more of it like Bella coming to a realization that this guy is actually supernatural and not so like in your face about it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever seen, what is it, like Interview with a Vampire? But kind of something like that kind of vibe, I think would work really well for the story. And then also you can have those like elements of like, it's a love story too. I just think there were ways to make this into something that was like a lot more interesting.
Yeah. And to be fair though, like it follows the book pretty
sure.
And that was the book. Like,
yeah.
I can literally like see the page in my brain and how it goes down about 25%, where she ends with like, there are 3 things I know. 1, Edward was a vampire. 2, something else. And then 3, I was undeniably and irrevocably in love with him. And like, that's used in the movie. Like, it is very true to story, and the story is not good. So like, that's, that's kind of like its downfall.
Well, I mean, I think also I got to realize too, when I'm watching this is not made for adults.
No.
So, I mean, it's like, there's that aspect too, where it's like, okay, well, how compelling can the story get when it's like its target audience is teenagers and middle schoolers? You know what I mean?
Who also don't have like a developed brain enough to, they want these things. Like for me as an adult watching this, I'm like, how did these two fall in love? But like as a child, like, cause I was in 7th grade, that's still a child. Like I'm like, oh my God, they're so in love with each other right away.
And
like that's true
you're
love.
Shipping it right off the bat.
Right off the bat. You're just like, look at the amount of attention. Like she's special. She's not like other girls. Which again goes back to the theme I'm going to talk about being anti-feminist. But like, it did a lot, I think, it played into the audience that it was targeting very well because we were vulnerable to that.
Is Bella the original pick-me girl?
100 billion%. That's the thing, yeah.
It's funny how you're saying like this really targets the audience in a certain way. I think it targets the audience in a way where it's like it creates envy for the watcher.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
Where it's like you make this and you see this relationship with this really hot guy and this girl who kind of like goes along on this adventure, and it's created to like make the
fantasy.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. But it creates like an envious like a naive girl who watches is gonna want that. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and Bella was right. Like in 7th grade, I didn't have a boyfriend yet. Right, I haven't had my first kiss. I haven't had like any type of relationship that was meaningful. And so Bella represented that of like she didn't have any of these things too, and she got the love of her life by not even trying. Right. So it was just like, romance can be thrust upon you. Like you don't have to work for a relationship. It's just like, if it's meant to be, it will be. And that was like the fantasy that it played off of.
Yeah.
So
I mean, from that aspect, it's interesting. And I understand why, teenagers would really enjoy this movie. Sure. You know what I mean? Especially during that time period as well. Like this is really a period piece,
Yeah.
You know what movie wasn't as popular with Goyles, but has a very similar romance plot? The Star Wars prequels. Some of this dialogue isn't far from sand. I hate sand.
No, seriously though. Yeah,
it's very close.
Yeah,
which is weird because George Lucas is like a robot who's probably he's probably had sex, but he probably
it's only to.
It was like all zeros and ones to him.
Yeah, he had to enter data points. Like. Oh God. I do have one more thing to compliment. I think that the soundtrack is so effective. And I know I mentioned this earlier. And again, I'm trying really hard not to bring in the entire saga a lot because we're trying to focus on just the first film. But like this grew into, I think New Moon, the sequel to this, the second one, has one of the most like famous, I would say, from like a girl's perspective in this soundtrack. And the first one is iconic too. Like you hear Full Moon and that's the song that plays when she's in Charlie's car for the first time and they're driving through Forks and you're seeing Forks for the first time. It's like super kind of like indie folk. That like you will never hear that and not think of Twilight. Like that same thing with Supermassive Black Hole during the baseball scene. That is iconic. And then like I said, Flightless Bird, American Mouth at the end of the prom scene. Like Paramore's on this. You have Decode for the end sequence. And it grew into such a thing. Like Bon Iver is in the second movie. You have Possibility, which was what I was playing for you before we started recording. And that is like a song that is used now a lot to like describe mental health because there's in the second book, there's basically 4 chapters that are nothing but pages that say the months because Bella's staring out her window being depressed. I won't give you an answer to why. But they play this during that time to show the time passing. And so that became like a super impactful song for a lot of us. And then when you get to the later ones, like the ending, the Breaking Dawn movies, you have Bruno Mars on there. You have 1,000 Years by, I can't think of her name, Vanessa something, right?
Hudson?
No. Who sings 1,000 Years?
Not a clue.
Oh my God.
This is why we have Googles.
And that was written for this. Like, It Will Rain by Bruno Mars is like for Twilight. Which is crazy, because you know that song. Christina Perri, yes. Oh my God. That was bad. So, yeah. I think, again, just looking at the first movie, I think there's a lot of great pieces of soundtrack. Like, it's very effective. And then it continues on throughout the entire saga. It, again, like, you can look at it as camp of, oh yeah, this, I mean, and they're using TikToks all the time that aren't even about Twilight. It's just like they're so embedded in like my age and my generation of girlhood that we use it for so much because we like have relationships to these songs.
Right.
It's like many, what was it? My Heart Will Go On. Is that the
kind
Titanic
of,
one?
honestly, kind of. Like I feel like people would come at me for saying that, but when I think of like Roslyn by Bon Iver, like it's like that fall, somber, dark academia, like angsty, moody. Oh God.
It's funny you bring up Titanic because I feel like Titanic was like a different generation as Twilight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where everybody was really into, what was it, Dawson, or what was that guy's name in Titanic?
Jack Dawson.
Leo's character. He was basically like Edward for the 90s. You know? That's how I saw it.
Kind of. Well, and then you have like the difference in class to kind of represent the difference in species.
Yeah.
It's a little bit parallel, I guess.
Interesting.
I mean, if we're being really honest, it's Romeo and Juliet being cloned over and over again.
I mean, that's the archetype for sure.
Ooh, come in here with that college degree, Michael. All right.
I know the reference Romeo and Juliet. That's my education.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
It's just the classic love story, the forbidden love kind of thing, you know?
Well, and I remember in the books and in the movies, it's brought up that Bella's favorite book is Wuthering Heights by one of the Bronte sisters. I think it's Emily. And that's like one of the most toxic relationships written down in like literature to this date. And I didn't know what Wuthering Heights was when I was reading this. And I was like, oh my God, I need to read that book. And I still haven't read it all the way through, but like, that's not a healthy book. Like,
what's a love story without a little toxicity? You know what I mean?
It's not a little, though. It is just toxic. It's like just straight up like battery acid in a book. So
cool.
Should we move along to, hey, what are you trying to say?
Sorry, okay, well, I thought we put a double-breasted on you because it would look nicer, I think.
What are you saying? Are you saying double-breasted because I should be wearing some milk duds or something? Because I happen to weigh a little more when I was younger and then lost some weight that I'm a little stretchy in the nipple area, and so that my breasts flap like two large wind socks flapping in the wind even though there's no wind, and I should have something to keep my breasts in so they don't burst out and poke people's eyes out? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm just saying they're on sale this week.
Really? How much? How much are they? $38.99.
I can get a quick one before we... So, maybe this won't be a quick one. I don't know. Maybe they dig into this later. I just thought it was weird that they basically bring up the Cullens as colonizers and Jacob and his people who are natives. And they bring up this parallel, and then it doesn't really do anything. I know the Jacob and Cullen and Edward thing happens more in the later series, but it just seems like... I just don't think this series has the attention to really do that sort of like parallel justice. Like it's kind of bringing like a real like, you know, a real genocide out for a plot point. You know what I'm saying? Which like this flow through you, but I guess it's like, does this get handled at all later? Like, what does it mean?
I think that's interesting you saw that because I've never seen it as a colonization thing. I think my perspective, and I'm not saying that that's not true because I'd have to look at it through that lens again, but my perspective has always been it sets the tone for the fact that like these people do not get along, and thus it makes the love triangle more interesting between Bella, Jacob, and Edward, because Jacob and Edward are such vehemently enemies.
Yeah.
Like, they're opposites.
Well, I don't think the movie is smart enough for that.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I feel like they're trekking in a little bit because they call them like pale faces or something,
Yeah,
which is like
yeah.
I think a real like native term that they use to describe white people. And when he tells the story, he's talking about like all of a sudden a couple hundred years ago they were here. Like I feel like it's very obvious. Like like just like I mean Plantation Rock, or what is it? Plymouth Rock, but it's vampires here, and
They call them the cold ones.
But I think he also references.
No, he referenced pale. He was talking about. He referenced pale faces as in Bella. Oh. He was talking about Bella's people. You know, like the people who came and lived there. But he was saying that for generations they had been beefing with this clan or whatever. Yeah.
But I also just think it's pretty obvious with them. You know, vampires are pale and they're white, and they.
But that was brought up.
You know,
that was brought up and then never talked about again. So it's like almost like they wanted to do something with that, but then they got cold feet or they just didn't know what to do.
It just is not the interest of the source material. It just feels like it's kind of used for background, which I think is maybe a little distasteful.
Sure.
For it to be that direct, you know?
Right.
I would also say though that like they do go more into some lore, and I can't say whether or not I know if it's like true Native American lore or if it's just based off of the story, because the person who wrote the book, Stephanie Meyer, was like, oh yeah, I did research into this specific tribe. It starts with a Q and I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm really sorry. I don't want to say it because I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's like Kiet or Quillet, one of those, but that's like a very legitimate based, kind of near Forks up in Washington, and I believe Oregon as well. And she's like, oh, I did all this research, but like, I could see her not, like, she's going to create something that isn't true just for the sake of her story. Mm-hmm. So it's like I think it's hard to piece apart like whether or not that is like actual Native American folktale.
Or just because you did the research doesn't mean it's a tasteful representation.
Correct.
Or
100%.
Or like a useful one or whatever.
100%. Yeah. So, but like they do go a little bit more into like once in New Moon, I'm not trying to do any spoilers, but like in New Moon, she spends a lot of time with Jacob Black and the rest of his tribe. So we learn more.
Okay. That's all I had for this. But does anyone else have? I know you had a big feminist mission, so maybe we'll say that last, Kayla.
Sure.
I was thinking,
Jeez.
well, just the whole idea. I mean, I guess later on in the series too. I mean, with that like the love triangle thing, it's like animalistic instincts trying to like, claim their prize or claim their woman. It's just very like Neanderthal and kind of barbaric, and it's like maybe it's like a trying to talk about just like the instincts of men and how we prey upon women and we kind of carry them around like a trophy and constantly fighting over one another. It's kind of, I don't know, maybe that's something they're trying to say too, but I just kind of noticed that because I mean the tribe of whatever Jacob's tribe, I mean they're literally werewolves, and then there's vampires, and these are very animalistic type of creatures. So
yeah, the tribe is called Quileute. So I apologize. I just Googled it. Quileute is how you pronounce the tribe. But that's really interesting because that goes into the feminist rant that I have about Twilight. So the University of Pittsburgh actually came out with an article called Twilight, Changing the Business and Culture of Contemporary Cinema. And basically, just to sum it up, it's like post-feminism displayed through cinema. It's interesting because when you look at Twilight and kind of its counterparts of like the Vampire Diaries or True Blood, you have the perspective of the female for one of the first times, but it's still through the male gaze. We don't worry about Bella's journey. We worry about Bella's journey as it relates to how Edward perceives her. And so it's kind of interesting because it like almost is... it's like disguised as feminist, but it's not. And I remember falling for that. I remember being like, oh my God, like there's finally like a girl perspective and I'm looking at this through the girl, but all we do is care about who she's going to pick and how she's portrayed to all of these men, and all of these men love her. Like even Eric and Mike Newton, the people that end up with Angela and Jessica Stanley, like they go after Bella, and then it makes Jessica and Angela jealous of Bella, and so she becomes a pick-me girl because she's like, I don't know, I'm beautiful, I don't know what's going on. So it's like really weirdly anti-feminist in a way, because it is just, it's like disguised as being feminist because we see it through Bella's point of view, but it's not her gaze.
Yeah, and it's just like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of needs and wants displayed outside of the need for this romantic relationship. She doesn't seem to want much of anything until, oh, Ed, who's this guy? What's up with this mysterious boy?
Yeah.
You know?
And there's also that like element of her wanting to fix him kind of thing, where it's like, I can see right through you. I can see you're not a bad guy, you know, when he's clearly telling you I'm the villain. You know, like she's like, but you're not, you saved me, and you know, I want to help, and you know, that's that kind of
I'm a monster thing. Watch me sparkle.
What if I'm not the hero? What if I'm the bad guy?
It's like he's literally telling you
he's
going to ruin your life.
He's handing you an armful of red flags, okay? Like, pick them up, run away.
So now we can bring in my therapist as a co-guest star as to why I am the way I am. So.
Thanks, Bella, for coercing Kayla.
Yep.
But I do think, while that's true, I do think it's also like Stephenie Meyer wrote it and was very successful off it.
Yeah.
So, you know, more women probably got the adventure to, you know, write a novel, the opportunity, I should say, based on the financial success of this. And it is kind of, like I said before, a rehash of a lot of the oldest tropes. I don't know, it's certainly not feminist, but these are all like some of the oldest romance tropes, just transferred into the Pacific Northwest, and it caught fire with, you know, the tweens. Like, there's nothing like groundbreaking in either direction about this story and this kind of like love and then later love triangle thing. Like, these are all very, very old tropes we're playing in now.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny because throughout the books there is like a idea of virtue, because Edward kind of grapples with whether or not he's a demon, whether or not he has a soul, and that is a recurring theme throughout the books. And it's funny because there's a point in Eclipse, which is the third book, the third installment, where Bella wants to get at it with him, and he's like, no, I have to protect your virtue. And then they like have this conversation. She's like, no, you want to protect your virtue. Like, you don't want to have sex because you want a better chance of getting into heaven, which means you do believe you have a soul. And it's just like so funny that like really intense theme came out, because like she's like, please have sex. I might kill you if I do. Like, so.
I mean, we've seen he's super strong. Do you think, like, you know,
he's super hung?
No,
she gets super bruised when during their honeymoon.
Jesus Christ! What I was actually gonna say was that he would just come really hard and it'd be like Scary Movie. Is it in Scary Movie
where she's like on the ceiling,
sticks her to the ceiling?
Yeah,
she's got rocket powered.
Oh
like,
my God, no! You know? I hate this.
Like a fucking, she takes off like a Nerf dart, you know.
When he sucks the blood, it all goes to his penis.
That's probably true.
Oh, God.
Sexy.
Do you think he has semen?
He probably should. I mean, I don't know.
He's got vampire semen. So whatever that is.
I know they
have a baby.
I was gonna say they know they kill a baby. So I mean, they have a baby.
They do not kill the baby.
They should kill the baby. Kill the baby. Okay.
They should have, honestly. That's when I switched from Team Edward to Team Jacob, because I was like, Team Jacob Jacob's the only one that's like, get this fetus out of her, like it's killing her, and everyone's like, protect the baby. And I was like, y'all are crazy. Like, her back breaks, like when she goes into labor, she like, it's like Exorcist. It's
Jesus
crazy.
Christ.
She
and
like,
what movies are these in? These are like in the
Breaking Dawn.
Breaking
Part
Wind.
1 is
also an anti-abortion piece.
Yeah, honestly, like, And that's where we see, like, because Rosalie's like, I've only ever wanted to be a mom. And she becomes like, that's when she and Bella become tight. But I think she's just using her as, like, a vestibule of, like, you can have a child. So I want, because she, as soon as Bella, like, dies on the table, she has, like, the baby in her arms. And she's like, they're there. It's creepy.
Bella dies.
Yeah, and she's reincarnated.
As a vamp.
Yeah, because Edward barely saves her at the last minute. It's really intense, actually.
But he bit her at the end of this movie, and so
He did not. He kissed her on the neck.
Didn't she get her neck sucked?
No.
What movie? Yeah, she goes cross-eyed.
Yeah, old boy gets a bite in or something, but he sucks the venom out. He sucks the venom out.
And that's why Carlisle's like, remember who you are.
I will say that scene was hilarious.
Oh, now that makes... Okay, so I have a note that says, once he ducks, he can't stop. And I meant to say sucks. And I couldn't figure out... I couldn't figure out what I was trying to say. Now I remember. Once he started sucking the venom, he couldn't stop. He was like...
Once he sucks,
this
he can't
shit
stop.
was good.
I'll make you go away.
Edward, stop. Her blood is clean. You're killing her. Edward. Stop. Stop. Find the will.
Okay.
Once you go Bella,
it's getting hot.
Go back.
Should we move to Let the Hate Flow Through You?
Good. Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
Yeah, actually, I mean, there's not like, can you really hate on this movie? You know what I mean?
I win. Did you hear that? No, I win. This
like,
is the perfect movie.
It's like if we were to shit on it, it would just be like, duh. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little too on the nose.
Like
to
two dudes rip apart Twilight? No way. I never seen that before.
Yeah.
Like, it's like... It is kind of like, and I honestly was less mad watching it than I expected. This is kind of corny and stupid in like a kind of charming way, and then I just was kind of halfway on my phone during all the, oh, you're so wonderful and I love you shit, because that didn't interest me so much.
It's not unwatchable, and it didn't like insult me, you know? And so that, from that aspect, like, I can't really shit on this. Like, it's not made for me, and I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? It's like, this is obviously a cultural like phenomenon, and you know, kids loved it growing up. I remember the posters. I remember like the girls oogling over Edward. You know what I mean? It's like it's strange because I know that there's stuff like this for me and Michael, like Star Wars. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we'd freak out the same way they would freak out about Twilight, but about Anakin Skywalker. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
Or Princess Leia.
Or no, Padme, because during this time it would have been the prequels. So
Natalie Portman.
Yeah. No, I can't shit on this movie in a way where it's like not ironic and kind of too on the nose, you know?
Sure.
So
my main complaint is that why did we introduce this sheriff dad who's supposed to be investigating this murders? I just really wanted the sheriff investigates the murder subplot. I needed like 15 minutes of that. That would have been nice. I would have been plugged into that.
There's more that comes.
Okay, but it's just the way it's handled in this movie. I'm sure it is in the sequels, but in this movie, it's just a total dangling thread that goes nowhere.
Yeah. That's why when I chose Trailer, I was like, oh, this is going to be hard because like keeping it to one movie when I know the entire lore is like difficult, you know? Oh, I just want to say that I have written proof. I have a text from Michael that was sent at 12:21 p.m. on September 2nd that says, finished it, meaning Twilight, both not as bad and even worse than I ever expected. So there you have it, folks. Not as bad and even worse. So
I almost want this movie to be remade into like a more like adult and darker version of the original, because I feel like the audience is now grown up, so I feel like maybe we can tell a more compelling story now, and with like a completely different type of tone, And I don't know. I feel like, again, like what I was saying earlier, I think there's makings of a good story in this, but it just has to have like the right elements.
Well, your wish might be coming true because there's been talks about turning it into a TV series.
Oh God, no.
You just asked. You just said I want this.
I want one film where it's called Twilight, and that's it. And then
Twilight 2026.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want it to be maybe a little bit more dark, maybe more blood, and some just heavy elements to it.
Like rated NC-17 instead of PG-13?
Yes.
Okay.
I want the 20-year later sequel, but like Bella and Edward are divorced and they hate each other and like their life is falling apart.
Renesmee has dual custody. Like she's going back and forth every other weekend.
And it's just like a family. It's just like, or it's like Marriage Story, you know? It's just like one of those. Just their relationship slowly falls apart. Because that's what real life is. It crushes your soul. Okay, let's move along.
I can get you numbers, therapist, Michael. Like,
no, I'm doing great. So let's ask our final question. Is this a perfect movie?
You lost a baby brother. Perfect in every way.
I had a baby brother. I had a little baby brother. And it was perfect. Perfect in every way.
Hell no.
Yes.
No, but
what are you talking about? Don't even
stay away. I'm putting up a physical barrier between Michael and Kayla. Kayla's on my side. Come on, Kayla.
No, I said no.
Come this way.
Is definitely not a perfect movie.
I hear you, but there was a but.
But no, I'm just saying like this is somebody's perfect movie, and so we have to like respect that in a way, because there's movies that me and Michael like that it's like obviously we're gonna enjoy this more than the average. You know what I mean? I just think that this movie did something for a lot of people. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, it's special to a lot of people, and that should be said about it. Doesn't mean it's good, because it's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
I think the parallel for us is the Star Wars prequels, which I would never induct on this list. I can enjoy them in my own nostalgia and in their own, like, stupid, corny way, but I would never tell anyone that they're good movies.
No. Yeah, no, that's fine. And like it's perfect for me, as in like I wouldn't want it rebooted, because like this is just like a piece of my adolescence that is just like, oh yeah, Twilight was it. Like, you know, and I'm sitting here, I feel like you're guilting me because you're wearing a Super Saiyan God shirt as I shit on you the entire time we did it.
You got it right too. Super Saiyan God with the blue hair. You got it right.
Okay, I have to say I've seen so many decals lately on cars, and I almost send them to you every time.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's too weird if I take pictures of these cars.
No, you should definitely send whatever Dragon Ball related thing you come across in your life.
I literally come across them like probably bi-weekly, and I'm like, I don't know if it's like the red Honda Civic thing where it's like once you become aware you just see more.
I think most men who drive Honda Civics they're definitely into anime. Okay. Just saying.
Cool. Fair enough.
Maybe just weebs are coming out, you know?
Yeah.
I can attest that's true.
Big fact.
Not me. I'm just like men I'm talking to are like, I want 3 wives, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to duck out.
She talks to cannibals and like like dudes who are into polygamy.
She signed up to like datapsychopath.com.
I've deleted all of my dating apps. Honestly, I'm just like, at this point we just need the grand reset. Like, let the meteor strike. I'm done.
This is what Twilight does to you.
Honestly. Oh my god. Because they hand the red flags. They're like, I want 3 wives. And I'm like, maybe I can fix them. Maybe I'll be good enough to get them down to just one. God.
So yeah.
Someone fix me.
Not a perfect movie.
Send Stephanie Meyer your therapist like bills, you know?
Yeah,
just
I should.
Forward them to her.
Oh, you know what's a good vamp movie? You ever seen 30 Days of Night?
No.
That is a good vampire movie, and it's actually kind of terrifying. Like it's about a group of vampires that descends on this town in Alaska during the time of year where they have 30 days of night.
You in Alaska pretty interesting. And vampires.
I don't know. This is just like the setting for vampires. It's
weird,
like these cold, small towns.
Because previous to Forks, they lived in Alaska.
previous to Forks.
Washington.
The Cullens?
The Cullens lived in Alaska. Because there's a little weird thing because Carla was trying to set up Edward with this vampire named Tanya, but he wasn't into her. But Bella gets jealous of Tanya later.
Interesting.
They come to help fight in the final battle. So
I think like going back to what I was saying, like how you can make an interesting story about vampires. I think what's scary about vampires is like they look like you and me, but they're not human. And there's something really like primal to them and stuff. And I think that's what 30 Days of Night really leaned into is like the animalistic nature of these creatures.
And the way this romance could hold my interest is if there was like a slow unveil of his darker nature and he actually has a darker nature. And, you know, like it's like on the whole time while they're being romantic, it's also tense because like maybe you know more than she does. And
or maybe he's got a different motive. He just wants to get in more so that he can get her blood.
Or just, you know, classic vampire stuff where it's like, I'm bringing you close and whatever. It's just, this really speed runs the vampire reveal. He's just like, I'm a vampire. Well, she's like, I think he might be a vampire because his hand was cold one time.
You're impossibly fast.
And then she gets a book.
And strong.
And she Googles a word. And then she reads about vampires. And then she says that. And that's all of it.
Outrun me as if you could fight me off.
He's really fast and he sparkles, guys. It's the mark of a true
strong.
vamp. And he's strong.
But not the strongest, as James tells us.
The line about the spider monkey, was that in the book?
That was Edward. That was Robert Pattinson.
Oh, that was all like ad-libbing.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, I guess they gave him like a couple of and he like it wasn't 100% ad-libbed, but he like melded some together. I hate that line. Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's iconic." I'm like, that's kind of so
hilarious.
cringy to me. Like, you better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
My little Spider Monkey.
I think it's her laugh after that. She's like, it's like creepy. I don't like it. I don't like that scene at all. I never have.
It's hilarious.
All right, so not on the list.
But thank you. Thanks for indulging for me.
No, of course. I actually enjoyed watching it. It was pretty,
oh my God.
Fun.
Let me pick more often. Let girls pick. Hashtag.
Let girls pick.
Hell yeah.
A pick it girl.
A pick it girl. Yeah, I'm a pick it girl. Sure. For sure.
What was I going to say? Next week, me and Kaylin, or next episode, me and Kaylin are going to do like kind of a recap. We're going to look back on the year, talk about a few movies we haven't discussed. And then we're going to be bon voyage into Halloween, I think. So
spooky season. Spoopy.
So we'll be getting into some spoopy things later. So
are you guys going to do The Conjuring?
We've been talking about what our like
what we should do.
We were saying we did lots of classics, so we want to do stuff that's like last 20 years now. So we were thinking, one of them needs to be supernatural. So we've been saying like Conjuring or The Nun or something like that.
Or Hereditary.
I would do Conjuring over The Nun because The Nun is part of the Conjuring.
Conjuring
universe.
2, I feel like is the superior scare.
No.
The only reason I would
the Nun freaked me the fuck out.
Dude,
I'm not
same.
gonna lie.
Do you want to? Okay, I was gonna ask. Do you guys want to go see the second one? It comes out next week.
I'm down to see that.
Let's go. I would really want to see that. I will bring a blankie and be completely hooded the entire time.
It's funny because
is it out next week?
It's out September 8th.
I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but the Conjuring series, at least the first one, kind of had that same Twilight effect where it was like a phenomenon.
Yeah,
where like as teenagers going, everybody went to go see it. Like it was the big horror movie, and it was like supposed to be the scariest fucking movie of all time, and you know that kind of thing. Like it's interesting.
Which is, I find Sinister to be more scary than The Conjuring. Have you ever seen Sinister?
I've seen Sinister, Insidious.
And that all was kind of within that same. I think Sinister was 2012. Conjuring was either 2013 or 2011. They were a year apart, but like The Conjuring had a universe behind it, right? And it also was based off of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were real people. And I think because of that, it had more of a grip because it's like, oh, this is based off of
real life scam artists.
Yeah, this is based off of real lies.
Who you think? But I don't know. I'm up in the air about them. I think that they were metaphysically gifted, or like did have gifts, but also were scammers.
I think they started off genuine, and then they ended up going down that
kind of
you know.
Yeah,
so.
I'm sure they had some genuine experiences. None of it was The Conjuring or The Conjuring 2 or the fucking
honestly,
Nun,
like the James Wan stuff, like the really jump scary stuff. It's the laziest type of horror to me. I think it has its charm here and there, but like if my kind of horror is like the ghost kind of being in the background, and it's not really about the ghosts and the demons. It's about the characters
and their depression.
If you've ever watched Haunting of Hill House, like you'll understand exactly what I'm saying.
I don't like that.
That it's like
Bly Manor is better, I think.
Bly Manor is a beautiful love story, I think. Okay. It's a really great story. It's like that whole like Victorian like kind of like haunted house, but it's like about the characters and stuff.
Sure.
I like that whole thing.
See, and I think one of the most like scary parts of The Conjuring, you've seen it, right? Just okay, when she's out on the clothesline and like things, she can like sense that things are amiss, and then it's windy and that sheet flies off, and then it like attaches itself to like the phantom. Do you know what I'm talking? Like to me, that's effective. Like it's still kind of a jump scare, but it's also like not, because it's not like boo. It's a they've been there the entire time, but now we're seeing that they were there the entire time.
Well, it's funny because it's kind of the same way in like Haunting of Hill House. It's like two characters will literally just be talking, and you'll just kind of like scan the room, and there'll just be something in the background. It's just like that's effective to me, because it's like it's more so these things are just they're in a haunted house, but it's not about the haunts. It's about the conflicting haunts of the characters. You know what I mean?
The ghost, like the ghost in your face jump scares are their own bag, which sometimes I like, sometimes I don't like. But the ones that really annoy me is when it's the boring part in the first 30 minutes of the horror movie, where they have some like random jump scare where like a book falls down and surprises someone or something, and it's just like bang, and you're like, you only did that to keep me awake. This is fucking boring.
See, that's so funny because I like those. I'm like, oh, that's like keeping us on our toes.
It's building up anticipation.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's also kind of like, okay, like we see what you're kind of trying to do. I don't know. It's not as effective.
I look at it from like, and I talked about this with Mad Max too, with the cortisol. Like they're trying to manipulate your biology, and I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You know, like we're going to do this because I know that this will elicit a physical response from the watcher.
And I also think like the same, like the target audience for like the Conjuring movies are like the target audience for the Marvel movies. You know, it's people who want to see like these big popcorn flicks. Yeah.
Hey, Kayla, you want to see something real fucked up? Go watch The Outwaters. Fast forward like 20 minutes in, because it takes a fucking hour for it to really start, and then the last hour, it's gonna blow your fucking socks off.
I'm just saying, look at this really great dialogue. Maybe if you just bring in a guest for a spooky one.
Of course.
Horror's my favorite.
Okay,
so.
We can definitely do some horror. We were talking about doing like cosmic horror and stuff, like
cosmic horror,
which is like ethereal horror kind of thing. It's interesting genre, so we're gonna probably do a bunch of different stuff this Halloween. So we'll see.
Did we watch The Black Phone together? Was that?
Did we?
I think we did.
Oh, I don't remember. I saw The Black Phone. I don't remember who I watched it with.
I think that was us.
We watched The Empty Man. I remember we watched The Empty Man.
No, the Empty Man was gone.
Yeah.
I was not. I don't remember.
The Empty Man, you clapped after the 25-minute intro sequence when the like credits came up, and you said that was a good movie, and then you fell asleep like 15 minutes later.
Yeah. All right. Rough time.
Let's sign off. We will see you guys next episode.
Bye.
Adios.
If any bad words are said about this film, she's never going to talk to me ever again. So this is going very, very well.
Well, can I say bad words are not going to be said. No, they're not going to be said.
It's a good film.
It is. And it does what it does rather well. Not in a kind of coy, funny, whatever. It does it rather well. It's Catherine Hardwicke is absolutely the right person to have directed this, and it does have that. It's absolutely, I think, about angst, and it's it does, again, the thing which a film like Age of Innocence does, is it's all about the thing not actually happening. It's all about devotion and longing and wanting and needing and desiring, but not actually doing anything. And I thought it did that rather. One criticism, please spare me the thwacks from from the rest of your film. One criticism, the flying and leaping effects weren't great.
There wasn't a lot of flying.
There was quite a lot of flying and leaping.
The climbing up the trees bit was okay.
Yeah, the climbing up the trees, flying and leaping. The wire work was a little poor, and the some of the CGI jumping reminded me, and not in a good way, of Jack Nicholson's trampolining in Wolf. Do you remember that? Jack Nicholson turns into a werewolf, and the way he demonstrates it is by trampolining his way through the backyard. Remember that? Boing, boing. Look, he's 75, but he's going like Skippy the kangaroo.